Okay, so now we have the resistance. So this is what's going to get in the way of you building your forever business. This is what's going to get you in the way of your forever business reaching those green or even blue levels on the color scale. So let's take a look at what that is. So resistance can be defined as the invisible force that people feel holding them back from doing the actions they know they should do. So this applies to all things in life and business. You know, you can think about, let's take a look at fitness, for example. Maybe those times where you don't feel like working out, it's late, and excuses start coming up in your mind, and you feel resistance. You feel like, oh, I don't want to do this. Okay. Or resistance can come in other ways where maybe you need to write something for your business, but you feel the resistance to, but you know you need to. You might even want to, but you just feel this resistance. Or maybe it's having a tough conversation where you just feel like you don't want to do it, but you know you need to. So resistance can show up in many different ways in life and business, and ultimately, what we're here to do is to reverse the resistance because it feels like some invisible force is pulling us back or pushing against us. Energy is there. So instead of completely fighting it, what we're doing here and what we're focusing on is how to reverse it. So we use that energy to propel us forward rather than hold us back. So there's two types of resistance. There's bad resistance and there's good resistance. So bad resistance looks like procrastination. Just like I was saying with that example where you don't feel like doing it, so then maybe you do something else, and you're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And there's many different reasons why we procrastinate, or why we can procrastinate. It's because it can be fear. That comes up a lot, especially with the forever business, because, for example, like my SEO business, when I started that, that wasn't as personal to me as Decode Your Genius. It was purely for money and freedom. That's why I started it. And so if things didn't go wrong, it wasn't like my identity per se. It still was like, because as a business, but it was a layer removed. Now, Decode Your Genius, that's like exactly my purpose, passion, like everything. It's exactly the truth of who I am. So it's very personal. And by the nature of us connecting to our purpose and our passion, it means our forever business is incredibly personal. So bad resistance can show up in many different ways where maybe we're afraid to put ourselves out there in a certain way. There's nothing for us to hide behind, because if you try and hide building your forever business, it's not going to click, because people aren't going to feel the purpose, they're not going to feel the passion in it. And our forever business is an extension of who we truly are. Mistakes and all, flaws and all, that's what it really is, because nobody's perfect here on this planet. So procrastination can show up, and it can lead to a loop like this, okay? So keep an eye out for the bad resistance. Now, at the same time, though, there is good resistance. Good resistance is kind of like a GPS, where it's got your course plotted for you, and if you take a right, it's going to tell you you're going off course. You're going off course. So there's good resistance at time in our lives where maybe in our mind we just want to go this way. I know that happened for me, like with my first web design business when I was, 19, 20, 21, and we were growing. More and more team members, more and more revenue, more and more money. Boom, we're growing. And had so many different resistance. And as I tell people, like, I was focused, I was committed, I was clever. So I was like, all right, if there's resistance, I'm going to climb over it. If there's resistance, more resistance, I'm going to climb under it. Whatever it is, I'm just going to bash my head through it. But life was like, hey, man, go this way. Don't go that way, because that's not the path of your true purpose. Decode Your Genius wouldn't have came about if I would have continued in that direction of web design. So there's certain things in our life where there is good resistance, and that's really a skill to develop. It's a skill that pretty much is never talked about, is the skill of being able to discern what is bad resistance, where it's like, I'm just procrastinating and I really need to do this, or good resistance where maybe my body is telling me that I need a break. Maybe it's telling you that it needs a break. Maybe you've been going too much and it needs a recharge. Or maybe the whole project in itself isn't really what you want to do with your life. Maybe you're just doing it for, say, the money, or it sounds good, or maybe it seems good. I mean, I've done all things myself. And I realized over time, after many different things, it's like, okay, the good resistance was trying to just direct me in the right way. So in Module 3, we'll really get into developing this skill of intuition and knowing how to discern in real time, very quickly, and just yourself as well, how you can connect to your genius within and know the difference between good resistance and bad resistance. So a few things I'm going to share here is like life in the slow lane, because there's many different ways of combating the resistance. And again, the key here is to reverse it. That's the philosophy here. But maybe you've seen these different ways. You know, I know I've tried all of these. So these are some of the slow lane methods for beating resistance. Affirmations, you know, so it's like, okay, I mean, is it lying to yourself over and over and over? Now, I've used affirmations. I feel like they're good and they've helped, yet I come to feel that now that it's almost like kind of putting your head against the wall and bashing it through. Like, hopefully with enough repetitions, you'll make it through. But it's just like, is that the most efficient way? Okay. And back when I used affirmations, I mean, that's all I had. So like, I was like, I got to use whatever I had, and I used it and it worked. It's just, it takes a lot of time. It's a brute force method. Subliminal audios, that's another one as well. It's kind of like, okay, well, what's the rate of progress? You know, what's the required effective dose? I'm not saying these can't work. It's just that there's a lot of open-ended questions with them. And sometimes people get discouraged because they try them, and since there's not a clear answer for these open-ended questions, then they can get discouraged and feel like, okay, well, things aren't really clicking. And that's really what this module is here to help, remember, is it's solving the feeling of feeling lost. So these are some ways that people feel lost because they're not getting the clear answers of what they really need. You know, seminars are great. You know, I've run workshops myself. Yet a question is, okay, like how long do the results really last afterwards? And that's something to consider is, okay, what's being done here that's going to last and it's going to change? And business strategy tactics. So especially when it comes to your forever business, you know, they can be good tactics, yet are they only addressing the conscious mind? And if they're only addressing the conscious mind without looking at what's your mental emotional makeup inside, then it's leaving some things on the table. And it can absolutely work just doing the method, doing the skills. Yet what we're looking here for is a comprehensive way to simplify your path of, again, the self-discovery as well as the action, so that you're building the right business with the right skills. And that can happen a lot of times with business strategy tactics, is they might work for someone else, yet everything inside of you is like, oh, that's not your own style. But then you kind of got to squeeze into that mold. So this is really about absolutely honoring the tried and true practices of business and life, the fundamentals, absolutely. And understanding that there's 22 different types of genius, and there's different combinations of them. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. So that's what we're doing here, is the fundamentals, universal fundamentals, as well as the combination that fits best for you and your genius. And that's why it's called Decode Your Genius. Other ones are vague spiritual healing. I love this path. This has been a huge impact for me. And one of the shortcomings throughout the many years is like, what's the tangible result? Okay, it might feel good, you might believe in it, you might feel the difference, but like, what's the tangible result? And that isn't to say it doesn't work. I just think that's where the next step with a lot of these things here is like, okay, there is something working here. There are changes happening. How do we take that to the next level and focus that to a very concrete, tangible results? And again, that's really how this whole course started, is because I had incredible experiences and incredible growth with my spiritual mentors over 8+ years, and I wanted to bring this to the business community. So it really had to focus things of like, okay, how do we get real results with these intangibles that are important, yet they're kind of hard to describe at the time. Other slow lane methods are like therapy. So therapy can be very positive, yet it just scratches the surface, because talking about your emotions and talking about different things is really the first step. But if you just leave it there, then a person has emotions that are up in their face. And talking about them sometimes can have them dissipate, but usually not. what needs to be the most effectiveness is identifying the emotions and expressing the emotions and doing some type of thing to transform those negative emotions into closure. And there's many different ways to do that. Yet sometimes what happens with therapy is it scratches the surface and then it leaves that open wound. So this is really a comprehensive approach, as well as like, okay, again, reverse the resistance. So let's acknowledge the resistance is there. Let's bring it up, and then let's transform it so that it can take positive actions forward. And do it in a way that honors the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual nature of you and everyone on this planet. And then it's the good old just do it. Okay, again, can be very effective, absolutely can be effective, and there's a lot of simple truth in that. Yet sometimes people feel lost because they feel like they feel like it's missing the bigger picture. Like, yes, okay, I can just do it, but like, what if I'm doing it in the wrong direction? That's where people can feel lost as well. So I share these because, again, this is to give some structure to why you might feel lost, or why other people feel lost, so that we can really focus through with precision, and so you know your direction. So reversing the resistance, and this is where we're going to end this video, is moving up the color scale. And this is what the quiz software will help you do. It'll help identify which parts of life and business are here, and then give a clear action of how it can be moved up. And then it'll also give you a guided meditation that'll help process the emotions connected to that. Because if we just give you actions, usually there's resistance with that. There's a reason why there's certain things in life and business. Maybe it's that conversation that you haven't had. Maybe it's that part of your business that you're like, oh, it's a mess right now, that part. So there's a reason why it's there. So we usually feel resistance around that. So it's going to give you the action item as well as a guided meditation to process the emotions around that, so that you feel more clear and feel more like, okay, I'm just going to do this then. And it feels more natural. And that's what happens. As we handle the underlying emotions in the subconscious, it becomes easier and easier just to do what we know we need to do. And that's reversing the resistance. So that's what I've got for you in this video. I'll see you in the next one.